Hi, thanks for watching. Back on the horse here trying to make more videos, and I keep finding things that I want to say. Now today it's Black Friday, which of course has nothing directly to do with racism, but I was chatting to a dyslexic friend of mine. He finds it very difficult to understand kind of words and what they mean and stuff. And he said, oh, it's good they're doing something against racism. Well, it really would be good if that's what Black Friday was about, but it isn't, and that's cool. But it set me thinking about racism. And as I said in the title, what on earth are we still doing with racism being so alive and well in our world today? It's insane. My own experience, right, was that I grew up in a town in the north of England in the 1960s and early 70s. And, it was a very white place. As a small child, I just wasn't really aware that there were people who would be a different colour. And then some point, I think around 1970, 71, my sister made a friend at school whose parents were Jamaican. And she would come to the house, and we got to know each other. And even as a very small child that I was then, I'd begun to hear about racism. It was starting to appear in the news. It was becoming a problem. Well, as long as it's existed, it's been a problem, but it was becoming a big problem that people sort of noticed in high places. And so I knew there was that kind of thing. And I met this lady, and a very small child, and we were having a conversation. And to me, the colour of her skin to me was like, the colour of my beard. What colour eyes has a person got? What does the hair look like? I haven't got much left myself, but I had plenty then. And it just seemed insane to me that people would decide they don't like somebody because of the way they look, which I just don't say that it's anybody's business, I mean, fair enough, we're all attracted to who we're attracted to, and, we fancy who we fancy, so to speak, but why on earth does it have to be a different thing, for people of colour, so to speak? So that's where I was, early 70s. In the late 1970s, I joined the Royal Air Force, and by that time, I'd been in a school where there were people from Asian background, people from many different backgrounds, actually. And I was overweight. I was one of the fat kids. So when we went to play football on the top of a freezing cold hill in Sunderland in the middle of winter, which we always had to do, I would never get picked for the teams. And the Asian kids and the black kids would never get picked for the teams either. It was a very racist town, I'm ashamed to say. Anyway, no, it's not my fault. It was a racist town, but it was, and that wasn't good. And so the thing about that was, suddenly I had something in common with these kids who were from, different ethnic backgrounds, and they actually were in those days. People hadn't long started the big, massive bouts of immigration that were coming in. But, there has been a black community in Britain for over 300 years now, well over 300 years now. There were British black people, British Asians, British everything. But the great majority of people of colour that we met were actually, people who'd begun their life in Trinidad or, wherever in the world they came from. So I had that experience at school anyway, and I started getting to know people. I would go to their houses and we'd be friends. And I mean, certainly there were cultural differences, but, their mum would be a mum and their dad would be a dad, and they'd give you something to eat just like anybody else would if you had kids round for tea, It just, I couldn't see any difference. So I digress, right? I joined the Royal Air Force. It was actually 1980. And that was quite a melting pot. There were people really, essentially, from all over the world. I mean, you had to prove that you were kind of connected to Britain in some way, that you had British lineage, British parents to get in. That is slightly different now. The Commonwealth is much better understood. But at the time, that's how it was. But there were many, many people who weren't white Caucasians, and it was never really a problem, When I joined the Royal Air Force, we went through this boot camp to sort of learn, the various skills and to make us tough and tough military kind of material, if you like. And it was hard. They pushed you until you broke, basically, because they wanted to see when you broke. Not unreasonable, I suppose, in an organisation like the Royal Air Force. But my point is, if someone walked into the room who I'd never seen before, and they had skin of a different colour to me, it was nothing, because I knew they'd been kicked round the same boot camp that I had. I knew that they would be someone I could definitely rely on at work or in any other sense. I knew they'd never been done for offences of dishonesty, because they'd got into the Royal Air Force and you couldn't get in if you had a record or anything like that in those days. So the trust was there pretty well automatically, and that was the case through most of the Air Force. I did hear racist remarks being made against people quite often. Those were the bad old days. I believe it's a bit better now, but I'm certain it hasn't gone away, simply because people still talk about it. People still make an issue of it, and I know one day it will go away. It just has to, you know. If you think carefully about racism, it's just obviously a really stupid thing. Now, I'm probably offending racists. I don't really like offending anybody, so I'm sorry about that, but I don't mind too much if I offend racists, because you guys need to change your thinking big style. Okay, that's pretty much it. I like to keep these videos reasonably short, so I'll leave it there. You know, let me know what you think in the comments below. There's no hate here, there's no kind of anger. I'm really interested to hear what people think. If you just write plain racism, I'm afraid I will report it, because there's no place for that on YouTube. But I'm interested to know what people think, you know. And I mean, Facebook's an interesting one, right? Facebook virtually never connects me with anybody who is outside my own ethnicity, the white Caucasian thing, you know. I have friends, you know, from different friends of different colour on Facebook. There isn't actually a problem with it, but I had to, you know, there were people that I happened to meet, and then I met some of their friends. Facebook itself, I guess it's trying to be neutral, but it seems a great shame to me in this world that kind of some people are still of the opinion that, well, you know, these people are this colour and these people are that colour, we better keep them apart. You know, we're all people. I was stationed in Belize when I was in the Royal Air Force, and I was talking to one of the local ladies. They're all either Mexican kind of Creole people or, you know, black-skinned people as well. And I was talking to this lady who was black-skinned, and we were drunk, actually. We were having a good drink, and she said, black is no better than white, white is no better than black, right? And I said, yes. She said, there's no biological difference. Now, that is the truth. There is no biological difference. Except, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that in some communities, sickle cell anemia is a problem, which, you know, it doesn't tend to be for white people. But, you know, that is such... it's a very, very serious thing, but it's a very small biological difference. It's not really much. If any white people had ancestry from countries where the sun was very hot and shines a lot, they'd have that colour skin as well, because we've all got it in us. There's just no difference between colours that's really seriously worth thinking about. Cultural differences for sure, but those gaps, they leave room for growth. Look how good it's been in Britain since we joined the European Economic Community in the 70s. All we could get was like boiled meat and horrible kind of potatoes, sprouts, just very, very basic food. And we have a much richer diet now because we're a much more global kind of a country. And that's only one tiny aspect of it. But that diversity is a wonderful thing. I lived in Cardiff for a while, and they had a big festival called Celebrating Diversity. Best thing they ever did there, in my humble opinion. Right, thanks again for watching, folks. Kicking towards 9 minutes now, so I'll let you get away and I'll get away as well. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a comment. And, you know, please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to hear some more of this. All the best, folks. I'll be back soon talking about something else. Take it easy.